Welcome, everybody, to Beyond the Shadows. I'm author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-host is Shana Wankel, a fantastic writer in her own right, and chat Shananigator from Edge of the Rabbit Hole. So, yeah, we're actually doing this live from the YouTube channel tonight because this is our normal time that we actually run Edge of the Rabbit Hole on the YouTube channel. So we know that some people didn't get the notification about the earlier time for Edge of the Rabbit Hole, so we figured we'd just do this live right now so those that didn't get that notification and show up anyway for Edge of the Rabbit Hole will at least get Beyond the Shadows. So thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been kind of crazy.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So we even started this one a little bit later because of weird technical stuff. We had weird technical stuff all throughout Edge of the Rabbit Hole. You know, all three of us, me, Alex, Vanessa, it was just nuts. But we got through it, and we had a fantastic show with Alexandra Holzer to finish our decade of Edge of the Rabbit Hole. And this is our actual last live stream of the decade altogether, Beyond the Shadows. The Shadow knows. All right. So great to have everybody with us. I see a bunch of people in the chat. So please be sure to share it out because I know the different times and different shows and all that confused everybody. Try to let everybody know at the end of the last show, hey, stick around. And then we didn't see anybody in the chat for a while. So it's like, did they all take off? All right. So Paranormal Decade. Now, our last Beyond the Shadows, which you can catch on the new Edge of the Rabbit Hole channel. The link is in the description. Make sure you are subscribed to that channel because that's where we're going to be going live from starting in 2020. So January 7th, and I see her down there in the chat, Nicole Guillaume, Guiding Echoes. She will be kicking us off for January there. But you have to be on the Edge of the Rabbit Hole channel for that because that's where we will be going live. No longer here on Haunted Road Media. Haunted Road Media will stay. All of our other videos will be here, but Edge of the Rabbit Hole is its own channel now, so be sure you go to there. All right, now that we got that out of the way. Tim Schoen, yes, okay. This final episode of Beyond the Shadows, our final live stream for 2019 and the decade, is brought to you by Haunted Road Roast. It helps you hunt ghosts. All right. Okay. So, yeah, it's great to see everybody down there. Cool. Okay. So, we ended up last episode. Remember, this is part 2 now. Part 2. We ended last episode on the Campsville grade school. And we really couldn't get to it. We were at our hour mark, and it's like, you know, people are bailing because it's getting late. Totally understand that. But we didn't really get into it. And she's shenanigating the chat, by the way. And we didn't really get a chance to get into it, but there's a lot that's actually happened at the Campsville grade school. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that up. This is going to be all discombobulated because I never got around to finishing actually putting the stuff on here. So that's Holzer file stuff, but we want the Campsville grade school, and there it is. There's the grade school. And Shana, we've had a lot happen here at this location, from seeing shadow people, hearing disembodied footsteps, to an apparition, and I'll bring some of these different things up. But this was your old grade school.
Yeah, I spent 8 years in there. And it's funny because the parts of the school that I found creepy even back then, I still find creepy now, but for different reasons. I wasn't really into this kind of stuff back then, but whenever we had like a tornado drill or something like that, we had to get as close to the boiler room as possible and get down in there if we could. And I always hated going in there. It was so creepy. It was so creepy even then, but just because it was dark and it was,
right,
you know. I don't remember noticing anything going on back then. I'm assuming that the filters that I had then are different than the ones that I have now, and that's why I didn't notice it. But the closest thing that I got to the paranormal was watching Scooby-Doo. So, yeah.
So you, back then, you had no idea that the building was haunted when you were actually going to it?
Nope. None of this stuff was even a thing to me. I wouldn't have even thought about it. So.
Right. But in your adult life, once you got introduced to the paranormal, you kind of figured out, hey, there's something going on there.
Yeah, and I probably about the time, that I got into the paranormal and, and then I moved back to my hometown and I would go for walks and I would always, look at it and be like, I never really noticed it before, but it's kind of creepy looking,
Right.
and there was nothing going on in there. And it was just, just this abandoned school. And then one night I was going for a walk and I was at night. I was really dark, like dark. And one of the street lights had gone out. I remember, which is why it was so dark. And I was kind of walking real slow, kind of casing the joint, looking at it, and I saw, I thought it was a flashlight coming in from the other side, but it wasn't the same as a flashlight beam. But what I saw was this light pop up in what would have been my 3rd and 4th grade classroom, and it just was there in the middle of the room, and then it just went across the room, and then I couldn't see it anymore, but I was like, what was that? And then my dad at the time was doing some construction, some work in what would have been my 1st and 2nd grade classroom and the cafeteria. And they were turning it into the town VFW, American Legion post. And
All right, which you can't see in the photo because that's
No.
off to the left.
Yeah, it would be way over there to the left. But, and he's like, well, I might know somebody that, might have keys, if you, so my dad, I was like, oh my gosh, if you could, let us in. He goes, yeah, I might know a guy, and so that's when I started.
She has a
going in
pretty
there.
cool dad.
I do, man. My dad's really cool.
So yeah, and I remember when we first got together, you telling me about this school and some of the activity going on there. So we decided to go ahead and check it out. And let me bring that up. So we actually didn't catch this with our eyes. We caught this later on film, but this is in the gym. And over behind, you see the arrow pointing to the shadow figure. Behind that is a set of doors that goes to the boys' locker room and then down the stairs to the boiler room where she was talking about, where it was always creepy. And we would always hear all these noises over in that area. And then we'd go over there and we'd start hearing things in the bleachers. So then we'd run over to the bleachers and it was like playing with us back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we end up back over on the bleachers because that's where we were hearing things. And then panning the camera around. We didn't see it with our eyes at that time. We kind of, I don't know if we weren't necessarily looking for a shadow. We were just kind of doing an EVP session and talking and all that. And the video camera captured this figure actually kind of walking a little bit. And so this is the still from that. So we ended up doing a height comparison later on. Shana stood approximately where that thing would be standing, and we took a photo and we compared everything, and so it came up to about your chest.
Yeah, and I'd always kind of thought that it might be a kid just because of its behavior. There'd be times where, you could feel like it was trying to lead you around, like hide and seek, or it would, like Mike said, it would do. Make noise, stuff would happen, and then we go over to, investigate, and then something else would be happening where we just were. There were times where we would be separated, and as soon as he would leave, and then stuff would start happening, all around me, and right up in my business, and but then he'd come back, and then everything would be, I'd be like, well, as soon as you left, this is what started happening, and there were some times when I would feel like it was a kid. I would get that feeling that I usually get whenever I'm trying to figure out if I'm dealing with a child or an adult.
Yeah, and it was about that height. Was about a 10 or 11-year-old child. And if you watch our, we have several videos on this school, but we have one that kind of is a compilation of all the different things that happen there. So if you just kind of like want the activity and the basics of what happened there rather than the full investigation videos, which we do have the full investigation videos on there, you can see some of these different clips. So there's one where you like walk into the gym. It's an indiscernible voice. You can't really hear what it's saying. It's like a 2-syllable word. And all of a sudden you start walking, you hear this bye. And then as she's walking away, run, so, pretty clear. You understand what's going on, that it wants her out of there. And you said when you got over to the other doors that, you were feeling sick to your stomach, that you had to get out of there, that sort of thing. Then there was that time with the twisted chair that showed up out of nowhere, because it hadn't been there before. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's this twisted metal chair sitting there.
Yeah, that was weird too, because I had just been in there earlier on. And there was nothing like that anywhere, even.
Yeah, because you were there like the night before,
Yeah.
and we showed up the next morning, and nobody had been in the building.
Yeah, and my dad said, nobody else has been in there. When he would have keys, he would know. He says, and whenever he saw the chair, that wasn't just, oh, I dropped the chair. I mean, what?
Saw something moving around over there.
I've been seeing it.
Yeah.
I've been just kind of ignoring
like
it.
over there by where my jacket and the
Yeah.
the bike is, right?
I saw it. I've been just kind of ignoring it because I figure, well, I'm probably the only one seeing
Yeah,
it. So
I
if
saw
I
it.
ignore
I
it,
saw
maybe
it.
it'll happen again. Yeah, I don't know.
So we have a couple of super chats here real quick. Tom McNicholas, a $5 super sticker with the Hiya cat thing. So thank you, Tom. Really appreciate that. And then Chanel with a $1 super sticker. It's a upside down smiley face. So that's kind of cool. The super stickers are cool. I like those. So we have a lot of questions about the school coming in. So first, how old is the school? It was built in 1938. This is kind of together. So Kara Gonzalez asked if there are any reports of suicide or deaths at the location, while Tim Schoen is asking, do we know why the school is haunted?
I mean, and in any of the research that we've done, any of the questions that I've asked from people, I have not heard that there have been any suicides there. I mean, somebody that went there in all that amount of time had to have died. Maybe not at the school, but, somebody going there.
Yeah, maybe somebody who, had some, fond memories of the location or, usually it's something like that. Like they have some sort of attachment, favorite childhood memory. If we're talking about a shorter shadow person. Now, an adult that might be there, maybe it was one of the teachers, principal, something like that.
I mean, the footsteps, there's a lot of residual energy there. And as most of us, know about residual energy, it's not something that's going to be able to interact with you. It's just lingering things, sounds, whatever that are happening that are going to happen whether you're there trying to interact with it or not. It's an imprint on that location, and it's just going to keep happening until it runs itself out.
Mm-hmm.
So those footsteps, though, there's a lot of them, and they're some of them are so loud. We've been.
Oh yeah, like clear as a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
dunk, 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 on a second floor that's not there.
Yeah, and some of them sound like someone walking with, like heels, like on or like dress shoes, like something a little more substantial.
Firm. Yeah.
Yeah, we never really heard like squeaking, like shoes, like tennis shoes or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not like we were in the gym and hearing squeaking tennis shoes like somebody's playing basketball.
Right.
It was on above our heads, basically. It sounded like a second floor, but there's no second floor at this place. And we even went up into the, I guess, quote unquote, attic space, and there's no surface there whatsoever for anybody to walk on. Christopher Stanton, a $1 super sticker with the pose. So thank you very much, Christopher.
I mean, a toddler, you would have to be the size of a toddler, maybe, and a small one at that, to be able to walk upright in that crawl space.
And you wouldn't even be able to walk in it because it's rafters, so unless you're going to fall through the ceiling, you'd have to carefully step, on the rafters.
Right.
So,
and it took a little while, to try to figure it out. It's like, why, so then we're like, well, maybe the footsteps we're hearing is not from this building, but maybe there was another building on this property, and maybe it had a second floor. So let's look into that. And the sound is just carrying over.
Yeah, we tried that for a little
so
bit,
we
and people are asking, the history of the area, how old the town is. That's Joe Nemchinsky, Tom McNicholas, Chanel F. saying it's before the school. There was something else there, and that's where we're getting with this.
Where we went now. Next to the school, where it was like here's the grade school. On the property on this side, there was a 2-story building.
Yeah, the old high school.
The old high school.
I don't have that picture available right now.
Right, but we were not hearing it there. We were hearing it, never saw it. So we had to, think about whether or not the sound would carry. The buildings were not connected, but is it possible that whatever was over here in the 2-story building, hey, what's over here?
We explored that possibility for a while.
So we did that,
but
and then
it turned out to be something else.
Yeah.
Because what happens in Campsville there, and that whole area really, is big in Native American culture. And so they have a lot of these archaeological dig sites. And so you had found about that dig in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were doing a dig there. They were finding remains and artifacts and different things like that there. So, that had to finish before they could put something else, on top of it. So,
which they did.
Yeah.
You look at that land, and you can see the terracing still. So basically, they, there's this hill there, this bluff, and they cut into it, did the dig, and essentially the basement of the school is the bottom of the dig site. So I know I see Bree Jones down there in the chat. She's talked before about there being a longhouse there. And when we were still going with the idea of a 2-story structure, we were like, but the Native Americans didn't have 2-story longhouses. But if you fill that dig site back in with the dirt that had been there, then it's like, wait, so the longhouse could still be a 1-story longhouse.
But it's just on what we are calling the crawl space right now.
Right.
So we are actually sitting underneath ground
where
level,
the building would have been, yeah.
Where the building would have been. So it would be like being in a basement and hearing someone walking above you is basically what we chalked it up to. So all those footsteps made sense then.
Yeah, that school is probably one of the more interesting investigations that we've done. We can't get back in there right now because the Archaeological Society has bought the building. And, you got in there for some sort of fair that they were doing.
I was in there, and I did find a potential vendor, by the way. And he was very cool.
Yeah, for our Paracon.
For our Paracon.
But yeah, you got in there because they're doing some sort of fair there.
Yeah, they were doing an art fair. Had local artists and stuff showcasing their art, and there were some very cool things there. And, I'm trying on the down low, to make
right.
And I knew that it would be too noticeable if I was just like open that door and get down there. But man, I was really curious. I tried to stay as close to the door as possible because I was wondering, it'd be like, without drawing too much attention to myself,
right.
Be like, hey, it's me. It's
me.
Do
It's
you
this door
me?
Back behind the shadow figure.
Yeah, and then once I started really, focusing on it, you could still feel that energy back there. So it's like, oh, please recognize me. Please,
right.
please, because that back there, that was not residual.
Well, no, because there was something else down there. So you go through those doors and down the stairs, because we kept hearing something coming from what sounded like from downstairs. And we would end up going into the boiler room, and then nothing would happen. So as we're coming out, because there's a passageway that goes from the bottom of the stairwell into where the boiler room is. As we're coming back out of that, I suggest to Shana, I'm like, wait a second. We keep hearing all this stuff coming from up the stairs, but maybe it's not back in the boiler room. Maybe it's not all the way in the basement that we're hearing this from. Maybe it's from the actual just stairwell itself. So Shauna suggests, hey, let's go ahead and set up a camera looking down the stairs, and we'll walk away and we'll do other stuff for a while, which we did. And so what we ended up getting was this interesting image. Now, I've enhanced, well, you can see plain as day it's a woman. I've enhanced that area. And those guys have been following us for a while, have seen this image before. And it's clearly a woman who is basically staring up the stairs at us. You see her arms are crossed. You can see her hair's, pulled back and up, but still a little poofy. I mean, honestly, she kind of looks like Jane Seymour from Somewhere in Time. So, at least as far as the hair is concerned. So you see her there, and what we ended up doing, because somebody could say, oh, that's, a dimly lit photo, it could be matrixing, all that stuff.
And I'm the first person to say that, always. Doesn't matter what I see, what you show me, I'm about, no, it's matrixing. I'll blow everything off.
Right, she does. So we went back, after we caught this image, we went back when we were filming our reveal episode. Okay, let's try to see if we can debunk this and recreate it. And we couldn't. There was no matrixing there whatsoever. But while we were filming that, and I didn't have time to grab the clip, there was a pebble that was thrown out of that passage into the bottom of that stairwell.
So it didn't just fall and roll, it was tossed.
Yeah, it was boom.
It was like it had air, Yeah. Like if something falls, even if it bounced, there was no bounce. It was just, pew. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wanted, anytime we catch something that's kind of questionable, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to blow it off as matrixing. Everything you show me, I'm going to say, oh, no, it's matrixing.
That one wasn't. We examined those bricks and the walls and everything down there.
We took several pictures, trying to get that same thing, but just couldn't. But then my problem with it was, and I fought with it for a while, is why is she not moving?
That was the weird thing, is she didn't move.
So that's why I wanted to blow it off, because it's like, well, it's not moving. So
yeah, she just kind of stood there and stared. Some people say that they see a little boy peering out from the passage there behind her. I have a hard time seeing that. That one to me could be matrixing, but yeah, she just stood there and stared, arms folded. Oh, almost kind of like, the fuck you guys think you're doing here? Stay out of my basement.
If it's matrixing, it's matrixing. I still battle with that one a lot, but it just, without, it's not like someone said, oh, look, there's a woman there. And now my brain is programmed to say, oh yeah, I see it now. Because now, to me, my brain is like putting cracks and dust and dirt and whatever, making it, okay, yeah, I see the woman. I see how it happens. But there was nobody it was just like,
no, I mean, it was clear as a bell.
What is that?
So a lot of people are making some comments down here. Chipper Terry, you can see she's wearing a hat or a bonnet. Christopher Stanton, I saw this one. Very good investigation. Thank you. Basis 1945. That's Andrea Agrenstein, isn't it?
Yes.
Agrenstein. I always screw up her last name. She says she looks sad or pissed, can't tell. Bree Jones says she's guarding something. And then... Bree Jones also says the boy is behind her shoulder, but could be matrixing. Yeah, the boy I'm kind of iffy on, but you can clearly see her. And she looks like she's just like, Yeah, I think she looks pissed or guarding something or something like that.
Maybe there was something on the dig that they missed. Maybe she's guarding that. Don't know.
I don't know. I mean, if it's Native American, to me, she doesn't look Native American. That's not the right style of dress.
No.
This looks like a pioneer woman. So, there are a lot of things around that area at the time that are no longer there. Like there at the, what was it, the Campsville Hollow, I guess, area. There was a lumber mill that was there. It was completely gone. So there were other buildings that were in the area at the time that just, we have no idea what she could possibly be connected to, because those buildings are just no longer there. So, it's interesting though.
Yeah.
And Christine Mike too, she doesn't look like matrixing. No, she doesn't. Yeah. So.
And for me to say that it's not, know that if I say that, it took a minute to get there.
It did.
I blew everything off.
Yeah. And this was such a great investigation, a series of investigations at that school. And we're just kind of, giving you the highlights of it. And, we're already, I mean, that was 20 minutes of this episode already. So that's how good of an investigation that was. And I sincerely miss that place.
I do too.
So,
But I'm not done with that place yet.
we'll get back in there one of these days.
And I know some people. And probably if we get the chance to get in there, we probably will not be able to film.
Not now, but maybe
now.
some years down the road, because I think the building will probably be there for a while.
Yeah.
So.
It's in really good condition.
It is.
Like when someone built that
for
building.
a Depression era building, yeah, it's good shape.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a great old building.
Yeah.
The other buildings that have been on that property looked really cool too. Unfortunately, I was not around then, but if you look on our YouTube channel, our playlists, and what is it, schools or Illinois? I can't remember.
Well, I mean, that shows up in a few of our different videos. There's one that's specifically haunted schools. There's the Campsville reveal episode, and then there's one that is a Friday Night Ghost Fright that's specifically on the Campsville school.
I mean, watch those.
So
those are good.
Yeah, so there's a few videos out there, and then there's all of our raw footage videos from there. So the first one was a combined the school, I think it was Eldred House, and then there was a Campsville raw footage 2 and 3, and then the reveal, and then in the haunted schools video, and then a Campsville Friday Night. Campsville grade school Friday Night Ghost Frights for itself.
Yeah, even during the reveal, there was stuff going on because we had our backs to the gymnasium where all the stuff was happening.
We're turning around like, what was that?
Yeah. So it's a very cool spot.
All right. So we'll end off on that for now. We'll get to some of these other locations that we've been to. And we're talking 10 years worth of stuff between the two of us. And really, we're doing mostly the investigations she and I have been on, which is like the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years now. So there's a lot that we're not covering. I mean, we talked a lot about your cafe stuff last episode, which most of that, I mean, all of that was before me. So, and I'm not getting to like the haunted episode or Stone Lying In and, stuff that I did out in Oklahoma. So, because that was all before we met, but let's go ahead. What did I have time to grab in here? So, well, Ghosty's having fun at Ohio State Reformatory. This was a very interesting building. I love going here. Shauna's only been here one time though, unfortunately. So, but it was still memorable when you went there.
And I'll say this place for me was an example of why not all paranormal investigations have to happen at night. And there was probably 100 people in the building.
Yeah.
It was during just the normal, $12 tour day or whatever it was. But you could kind of wander off, you didn't have to stay with the group necessarily as long as you didn't go in like the places that were roped off or whatever. But there was still a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. There's that one room up there where the gate is closed on it. They have a door to it. It's an old bathroom, but for some reason, and it's in the admin building, and it has a metal door on it. And back in the day, this was actually the part of the admin building that ambassadors coming to the building would actually stay and sleep and all that. So they would use the bathroom. So I have no idea why this metal door is on there. And the first time that I was there on my own, I could get in that door. I could open it up, walk in, not a problem. And that was just when I was doing a walking tour before I had Shana out there. And so then when I brought Shana, that door was locked and you couldn't get in. It's been locked ever since. But you were feeling an energy from over there.
Yeah, there was something going on, or there was something that had gone on in there. Because I kept getting drawn to that room. Yeah,
and if you look at this photo here, it's going to be second floor on the left-hand side, a little bit more to the left there. It's actually not in the photo, but it would be off to the left and then down the hall a little bit to give you guys an idea. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's, I couldn't hear anybody. I couldn't tell you, if it was male, if it was female. I couldn't say if it was an adult or a child. I couldn't tell what it was. But it was really giving off some vibes. And I started getting developed a lightheaded and a headache and all kinds of stuff from it. So,
yeah. And what's interesting about that, I didn't know this until later on, probably about 2 years ago, doing an investigation with Tri-C Ghost Hunters, and Greg Fiketic. He's basically in charge now of the paranormal investigations at Ohio State Reformatory, but he heads up Tri-C Ghost Hunters. And if you guys are coming out to Parapsychon May 2nd and 3rd, I will be there, and they run that event. It's a great event. But he was telling us, he's giving the tour. He's like, I'll take everybody through that, isn't familiar. And, I was familiar with the building, but I wanted to hear his stories. We got up to that room. And like I said, Shana already had her stuff happen. He gets to that door, and it's locked, so he can't get in and show us. But he's like, the first time we ever investigated here, and it was like 10 or 12 years beforehand, he's like, the windows were blown out. They were still doing a lot of restoration work and all that, and you could, freely get into that room. And he's like, there was a moment in which the energy in there got extremely heavy. It just really heightened, and then all of a sudden there was this blue light that just lit up the entire room in there for like 5 seconds.
I didn't
it was
see
just
that,
like crazy. Yeah, we didn't see that, but I just thought it was really cool because you had that happen to you, and any time that I've walked by, there's been like, there's something going on in here, but I'm not as in tune with things as you are. You picked up on all that, and so I thought it was really cool that we're doing the tour. And, before we actually investigate, and Greg's telling us about the stuff that happens in there. And I'm like, holy crap, that's really cool. So it's a hot spot. And unfortunately, and I haven't been back there since last Parapsychon. They actually had that entire wing closed off because who knows what they were doing as far as renovations. So this year I'll have to see if I can get in there this time. But yeah, that's a pretty hopping room. So... Tom McNicholas, they closed off some areas except for special tours. Last Parapsychon, they had some areas closed off. Now, if you actually do the nighttime paranormal investigations there, which I've done with Greg's group, I've done with Ohio Paranormal Syndicate, which would be John Ward and his team. Sean Gilmore was there and all that stuff. There's some areas of the building that you can get into during those that you can't normally get into during the day tours. So like up above the chapel area, there's the old hospital, and there's a small narrow staircase to get up there, which is a really cool looking historic staircase. So unfortunately Shauna hasn't been in there, but it's an area that you can't normally get to, which is really cool. There's the attic area above the one cell block, and I remember Sean Gilmore taking like a bunch of his Christmas lights and setting them up in there to use as like a laser grid, which is pretty funny. But Greg and I went up in there one time. He's like, we need to investigate it, together. We've never done that before. Like, okay, cool, well, let's go, Greg. So we went up there. So yeah, there's some areas that you can't normally get to that you can during those bigger investigations like that. $5 super chat from Papa Bear 001. Always great shows. Thank you very much for the super chat. So all right, Andrew Cox, Andy Dufresne escaped. Yeah, it was the Shawshank Redemption prison. Yes. So speaking of Tom McNicholas, he has seen this. I didn't get all the photos uploaded because I had a series that I wanted to walk through to take us to our next destination. So I'm going to have to kind of piecemeal this together. I ran out of time before the show because of technical difficulties. Mm-hmm. So down the road from this building, from Mansfield, I do a lot with historic research. Shana and I both do. I shouldn't say we both do. So as an example of the type of research that we do, down the road from this is the cemetery in Ontario. So this is Ricksecker family grave, dating back into, you can see the dates there. They came into the area mid-1800s and settled in Mansfield. But what's pretty cool here, and I'll try to just throw these in here real quick, is I found where the original, his house had been. So if you look at this map, you see kind of in the middle there where the two roads cross and make a T, there's a little black dot there, and the number 4, and you see J. Ricksecker. Well, that would be Johannes Ricksecker, John Ricksecker. He was known as Father John in the area. He helped out with the Underground Railroad, was big in the church. He lived until he was like 97 years old. They said that he was chopping wood up until he was 96. It's pretty impressive. It's a good dude. But I bring this up because we use a lot of old historic maps to try to figure out where things were and had been. When we did our research with Campsville, we used a lot of old maps. We went down to the county clerk's office, and we were digging up the old maps. So what this is now, unfortunately, and I'll bring that up too, is it's sad. It is really sad. Open it up. Oh, this one's too big. Okay, let me shrink it. Yeah. Adjusting photos on the fly. Not good. But his old house, and Tom, and I mentioned Tom McNicholas as a prelude to this because Tom's been there. We had breakfast there. And they actually, him, Nick, and Dustin was with us, right? Went out to go check out the cemetery. So now it's a Denny's across the street from a mall. But yeah, it was a log cabin house was sitting right there on that. So we've gone into the Denny's to kind of honor that before. But that's kind of like the type of research that we'll do. We'll bust out the old maps and see the way things had been to kind of correlate that with the current landscape. So yeah, it's just a Denny's now. But in other locations that we've investigated, we have found, things like where old schools were, old churches, the way maybe roads were laid out differently, like the St. Omer's. St. Omer's Cemetery was like that, where they had the road that had to a town that's no longer there, but you can see how it went north straight up into the cemetery, and you found that old entrance to that cemetery.
Yeah, buried under the brush and the leaves, the foliage, the everything. If I hadn't have literally kicked it with my foot, I would not have even noticed.
Right.
But I always, anytime I go to cemeteries and stuff like that, if there's any woods nearby, that's my first, place that I go, because
You do head to the woods a lot when we go to cemeteries.
Yeah, I want to know if there's anybody hiding back there, if there's any stones that are covered, because that's happened a lot.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that has happened where we will find headstones out in the woods, and it might just be along the tree line, but it becomes a headstone that's forgotten. Tom says you couldn't find the old gate. So Tom, we'll have to go there and show you, because it's on the south side, and it's just it's kind of just laying there, and I can't imagine anybody would have walked in.
Yeah, St. Omer's, whenever you walk in and you hang a left at Caroline Barnes's gravesite, and you go past where all those children are buried, and you just keep walking. You just make a hard left at Caroline's gravesite, and you just walk all the way to the woods, and it's literally just... It's
like right there. Yeah. So next time we go out there to like Ashmore or Silcon or something like that, we'll show you guys. So B3 Aerospace saying maps are the key to the unknown. Christopher Stanton, research is your best friend. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So with the cemeteries, let me come back into here because I'm going to have to load stuff up again. And again, I apologize for this. It's just ran out of time because of technical difficulties early on. So this is at a very cool cemetery. It's another Ricksecker grave. And you can see the headstone there, Elvira. Yes, my great-great-grandmother was named Elvira, which became my aunt's. No, it would be my great aunt. Yeah, because it was my grandfather's sister. It became her middle name. So, in any case, back behind the big Ricksecker stone, this is at Lakeview Cemetery in the east side of Cleveland, Ohio. There is the grave of my great grandmother, 3 greats, something like that. And Shana, when I was showing her this gravesite when we went out there to Lakeview, all of a sudden you started feeling like head pain or something, or lightheadedness or something was going on with you.
I started getting kind of dizzy, and then I got this like major headache, and I thought that it was going to be, I used to get migraines back in the day. I hadn't had one for a little while, but it was starting to get bad enough where I thought I might have to take something. And I was fine before that, but I thought I was going to have to take something. And it pretty much kind of stayed with me until we left that area. So as soon as we started getting out and away and doing other things, I didn't have it anymore. So,
yeah. So the reason why that is significant with this photo where she was getting some head pain, Shana didn't know this, but this woman, my great grandmother, the way she died is that she slipped on the stairs of the house, the back stairs, and hit her head and died. She was found there. They're not really sure how many hours later, but several hours later. And she had fallen from the head, or she had died from the head trauma from the fall. So somehow Shana tuned into that walking over there. She had no idea. Mm-hmm. So, but Lakeview, this is a favorite cemetery of ours because, and I do have a photo.
And there's still more that I've been finding out about Lakeview.
Oh yeah, there's a ton there.
That big angel of death thing.
Yeah,
it's like how did we miss that? But that place is huge. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Yeah. So this is just a quick snapshot of a few of the mausoleums there. This like a mausoleum city there. So like an entire like strip of these beautiful ornate mausoleums. My family's grave that I was showing you is actually off to the right of this and up the hill. So it's like it's all in the same section, but there's this huge mausoleum area like this. It's just absolutely beautiful that if you ever go there, you have to visit it. I mean, Lakeview itself is huge. There's like over 100,000 people that are buried there. There's historic figures like John D. Rockefeller, Elliot Ness, a whole bunch of other people that are, President Garfield, they have a huge thing for him there. So there's a lot of famous people buried there too, but you see the mausoleums are just wonderful.
Yeah, there were some with like stained glass and it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. Like I didn't want to leave that area.
Yeah.
If I'd have known what else was there and if we had more time, you can't see the whole place in one day. It's way too big. Too big.
No, we had other stuff to do that day anyway, so it's like we just caught like a snippet. Like I showed her the mausoleums, the family grave. We found out some information on the family grave site too, because I was looking for the one specific grandfather because he didn't have a stone there, and he had married another woman after his wife had died. So I was wondering if he was off in another cemetery somewhere, with that wife. But I wanted to verify and make sure and all that stuff. And actually, both of them are there, next to each other in unmarked graves next to the first wife. So it was kind of interesting discovering, awkward. Okay, now we know what happened.
That's kind of awkward too, though.
It's a little awkward. He's between both wives, so. But yeah, I took you over by Rockefeller and some of the, some of the different sculptures and stones that are over there. There's a gazebo that's really ornate and all this stuff. But yeah, there's so much more. Yeah. So much more. So we do a lot with cemeteries, and we have been. We went over that with the lost cemeteries last episode. So, and you guys can throw questions in there because it is a Q&A as well. So anything that you guys have. One of the investigations that you mentioned on part 1 was, there we go, Vandalia. Yeah, this is the blue photo. I have, you can see at the top there, kind of highlighted the window where people have seen a woman looking out of. But we've got an interesting activity there as well. But throughout that building is just really interesting. There's a couple of kids running around there, which you tuned into.
Yeah, that didn't take long.
Yeah.
Even for my first time in there, and Mike was even with me. and I just kept being drawn to the second, drawn to the next floor, drawn to the next floor. And there was stuff going on the first floor too. But I was just hardcore drawn to that first floor to the point where I just, I think, I was on that first trip where I went up there by myself, and I don't ever do that, especially in a strange building. Not until I've had a chance to, walk through and get a feel for it and stuff like that. But it's just the layout of it is kind of trippy too, rooms happen before you get to the top of the stairs, and just
because they moved the staircase, so when they moved it kind of overlapped an existing room, and so before you get to the top of the stairs there's already a room. And
so if you're walking out of that room in the dark and you're not paying attention, you're falling down those stairs, and there's going to be nothing to stop you but the stairs.
Yeah. If any of you down there, and I know a couple of you have ever been to Hinsdale House, when you go up to the staircase to the second floor, and you know how you kind of like have those two rooms kind of off to the side before the stairway ends, that's what this is like. But like even a little bit more so. It's really kind of weird and disconcerting to try to get to that room.
Yeah.
Because you're just kind of hanging out there off the staircase. So, but yeah, they always talked about the little kid there down in the flower shop. Because right now it's currently a flower shop. It's been a lot of things. It's been a bank, it's been a drugstore, all this different stuff. They've seen the little boy many, many times, but we got a name this time, Andy.
Yeah, that's kind of rare too. You don't always, and we're not talking about something from an app or an Ovilus or a box told us.
No, it's
neither.
an EVP.
Yeah, it's just a straight up EVP. Question and answer, boom, got a name. So, just doesn't happen often enough.
Right. And then later that night, that was a great thing about that second investigation that we did there. We've been there twice. We're trying to arrange a third time around, just to keep following up. And that's what you do, is you keep following up. And what was it? He said, "I'm here," when you were in that room, and again doing an EVP session. It was a little boy's voice.
Because I knew he was there, because I connected with him right away. And he was so strong in there, and after that first time that I, when I found him, I didn't want to leave. I was so sad. I didn't want to leave because I could just feel him like, no, he was back there, and I glanced back there and I could just see a little, whatever back there. And I didn't want to leave. I could have just laid down in the room, and just stayed there. I don't have a name.
Yeah, we don't have a name for that, for him up there. So that's something that we're looking to do on a third investigation, because we've basically confirmed he's there. What was felt the first time around was confirmed the second time around, and now the third time we need to find the name. So because it's a different boy up there than the one downstairs.
Yeah, two totally different energies, two totally different people. But just that little voice, "I'm here."
Yeah.
Dang, it's so sad, but it's like, and I didn't hear it out loud either. That's another thing that's very frustrating sometimes, because you swear you're not getting anything. I feel stuff, but I'm not hearing anything, and then after the fact, after you're already gone, then you hear it, and you're like, well, that would have been helpful if I'd heard it when I was there. That's the part that's so frustrating. But for whatever reason, it's just the way it happened. Whether he just couldn't make it happen or didn't want to, I have no idea.
Yeah, or it's just on a different wavelength or frequency from our ears, but the audio recorder picks it up. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes we do hear it as a disembodied voice, which is great when that happens.
Yeah, but he will definitely perform when you're there, though, because I say perform, but he delivers, though, whenever you ask for it. I've been touched in there, and not like, bad, but
you get it, yeah.
Yeah. You can, because he kind of hangs out by the corner, in the corner of the back of the room, And there would be times when I could, just put my hand in where he's at, and I could feel it, and it was just the energy just kind of, kind of leeches up your arm there a little bit, and it kind of feels like your arms fall asleep. It kind of feels like that, and but then when I wasn't there, I was starting to I started having I wanted to call them visits. They were kind of like dreams, but it felt like I was there.
Right. He was like visiting you here, but through your mind.
Right. Because I would see that room, and I would feel like I was there, and then I started seeing him in my mind, and I could see his lips moving, but I couldn't hear any sound. So whatever frequency I needed to be on for that to happen just wasn't happening. Right. So I have no idea, but I could describe him perfectly. Need to go back.
Yep, we definitely need to go back. So let's get to some of these questions you guys threw down there when I said, hey, we are also taking questions too. Because it is also a paranormal Q&A. So Andrea Votto, what are your plans for 2020? So, 2020, have a lot going on. Of course, with Haunted Road Media, we have a lot of book releases on tap. So the first one is Ghost of the Black Hawk War. That's coming out January 14th. That's from Dan Norvell and Larry Eisler, which is local here to Illinois, but very, very good, very, very good. Has a lot of history and, of course, the ghost tales that goes along with it. Then there's my book, A Walk in the Shadows, coming out January 21st. So that's a complete guide to shadow people. So, covers all the different types of shadow people. That gets into like a lot of theories about, interdimensional beings and, time travel and just all kinds of different stuff.
It's good.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, she edited it, so she would know. So let's see. We also have a book from Leslie Fear coming out. So we have a lot of different stuff on top from the publishing side that's going to be coming out. As far as like investigation videos that are coming out, we have. So we did a couple there around Halloween time. We did Cambry House, which we did release as our Halloween video. But then we also did that bar and grill in Quincy. So that's coming out as well. Then there were 3 investigations that I did in New York. So there was the Hinsdale House, there was Wildwood Sanitarium, and then Rose Hill Asylum. So all those will be coming out. Boom, boom, boom.
I've got some cool stuff behind the scenes.
You've got
in the
some,
works
yeah,
too.
yeah. So Shauna's trying to set up some stuff that we can't quite release yet, but we are trying to get back to Vandalia. Yeah. Of course, more stuff at Mineral Springs because we always do a lot of things there. Of course, our Haunted Road Media Paracon is June 13th. So, please go ahead and come to that. We are actually looking at doing stuff the night before too, June 12th. So we've been tossing around some different ideas to how to expand the event a little bit. So we'll have details coming out at the beginning of the year, after the new year. So also, for those of you that aren't in the know yet, we've been trying to make it as public as we possibly can. There is the new the new Edge of the Rabbit Hole YouTube channel. So all the Edge of the Rabbit Hole shows and Beyond the Shadows, all the long live stream shows are moving to the Edge of the Rabbit Hole channel. So if you haven't yet, there's a link down in the subscription. Go to that, subscribe to it, because coming the new year, everything's going to be there.
All of the Tuesday night stuff.
Yeah, all the Tuesday night stuff.
Just the shows.
Yeah, the Haunted Road Media stuff, like the Friday Night Ghost Frights, paranormal investigation videos, the Mike's Morning Mugs, all that stuff will be staying on Haunted Road Media.
So it's just the shows.
It's just the long live stream shows. Rick Gabbard, $5 super chat. What haunted location has drained you the most during an investigation?
I'm trying to think of places where I needed the
Yeah.
most chocolate. I don't know.
Yeah. Which ones did we have to come away from with a lot of chocolate? I mean, I'm trying to think.
Oh, what was that one? Where were we at? I had the worst hangover the next day from it.
That doesn't narrow it down
I know.
at all.
I know. I'm trying to think.
Was
but
it in the state? We haven't done too much out of the state together. It's usually me, but
Was it Vandalia?
Vandalia has drained us.
There was one where I thought I was going to have to take on some king-size dark chocolate, and I felt just terrible the next day.
I don't know.
So I'm not sure.
I can't remember. Locations drained me the most. Yeah, it's one of those, like, I'd have to, like, go back through the Rolodex of different investigations. What were we doing? What?
I'll bet Cheney was.
Well, Cheney, yeah. Cheney kind of messed me over a bit because of what PD messing with me and breaking the black tourmaline in my hand.
Sacrificed a black
insane.
tourmaline to the cause.
Yeah, that one, I can't recall if, I was, like, completely drained after the investigation, but during the investigation, I was getting to be like, whoa. So, yeah. So, some other questions here. We have Christopher Stanton. What was your most terrifying investigation or most draining? So, kind of the same thing here. But terrifying. Terrifying is different than draining.
I mean, the cafe definitely had the one moment where I definitely was too scared to stay in the building while it was going on, just for safety purposes. The night of the furniture being thrown around, like bookcase furniture and stuff like that. So,
yeah, we kind of talked about that stuff in part 1 of this series. So you can always go back and watch that, which is on the it's on the Edge of the Rabbit Hole channel. So it's the same name, Paranormal Decade Rewind and Q&A part 1 though. So
yeah, there's just, call it a poltergeist, call it, the building just decided it had had enough of, visiting and just shoot us out in a very, well, it's kind of rude, really.
Right.
I mean, it could have just, said, hey, I think we're done with the visit. Let's come back another day. But instead, but just something. The building was angry. I mean, that's what prompted.
You guys pissed off the building that night.
Yeah, and I didn't even do anything.
Right.
I don't even remember anything disrespectful happening, because we didn't really tolerate that stuff. I don't tolerate that stuff anywhere, but especially there, even with some of the disrespectful spirits that are in there, we tried not to follow suit. But that particular night, I have no idea. But we did have a skeptic in the building, and
maybe he's being too skeptical.
Yeah, he was the first one. I was the first one out of the building. We had the big shadow, figure that we all saw. And then after that, we tried to sit down and play it cool and continue the investigation and talk about what we'd seen. And then we started hearing stuff. And then my body said, let's get the hell out of here. And so I grabbed my personal stuff, didn't give a rat's ass about anybody else or any of their stuff. I got my stuff and my body, and I got out that door first. And everybody else was blowing out candles and gathering up stuff and just. Yeah.
And that was there at the cafe that Shana talks about. So, and we talked about that the last episode. So definitely go back and watch that and get all the details. And for me, it's not been during a paranormal investigation. I've pretty much been fine during investigations, other than like the Cheney pressure, whatever the hell was going on there. And for me, it was an incident which was not a paranormal investigation. I wasn't doing anything paranormal related, and just it was creepy shit coming out of the woods, which was like, yeah, I think it's time to get out of here. It had nothing to do with what we were doing there. And so you can read about that in A Walk in the Shadows. I also talk about it in the last episode. So, Andrea Votto, are there places you are terrified to go into, like caves, underground tunnels, etc.? I don't think I could do. So
I don't like basements anywhere usually.
You
as a
don't like
general
basements.
rule. I can go into Mineral Springs, into their area. It's probably the only one that I could do. I've been in some pretty tight spots in caves before. But just from a safety standpoint, you know, I'll take risks, but not any that is going to risk my life. So
yeah, it comes down to a physical issue. I mean, not so much like
especially caves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not so much like the supernatural aspect of that as it is the physical aspect.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a place it's outside of Louisville, Kentucky. I think it was also called Lakeview, but it was an old hospital, and there was a cave down the hill from it. The hospital overlooked the lake. The hospital's not there anymore. And on the other side of the lake was a cave where they used to store the bodies. And so this was, talk about part of this decade. This was in 2010, the very beginning of this decade. And I was in there with Patrick Burns and Marley Gibson, some others, doing an EVP session down there, just doing a burst EVP session. And we got an EVP that said, go deep. Now, in this cave, there's like this little creek. It like comes out of the wall. It's like its own little trough sort of thing as it comes out of the wall and then out of the cave and into the lake. And so, but it goes up into the wall, this hill and all this stuff. And so there's like this hole in the wall where it comes out of. So we go up next to the hole and do more of the burst EVP session, and we go deeper. We're all looking at each other like, yeah, I don't think any of us are going to go crawling up there. You know, we have no idea what's up there. You know, it's wet because there's water all around. You know, it's very small. I mean, we could have fit in it, but it's like you're going to get yourself up there and you have no idea how far you might be able to go because it's a small thing and it goes up and it's dark and no idea. So, but if you want an idea of what might happen, Campfire Tales Midwest. It's the very first story in the book.
Yeah, from a paranormal standpoint, with the exception of basements everywhere, I'll go just about anywhere. You know, even if, you know, there's claims of, you know, something, you know, shoving, scratching, you know, claims of demonic activity. Those are probably the first places I'm going to want to go just to prove, come on, you guys, come on now.
Right.
No. Just because it's mad doesn't mean it's, you know, going to like eat your soul or anything like that. Know the difference. And
but you haven't been on a real paranormal investigation unless your soul has been eaten. Come on. You're not a real paranormal investigator until you get possessed.
Brandy, if you're watching, I think Brandy says it best.
Brandy Green's quote is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, her quote is, what was it? In the 4 years that she filmed with Ghost Hunter International, she said, over 4 years, 40 countries on 6 continents, she was never possessed once, let alone twice in one episode. It's awesome. So, of course, I use that quote in the book to open up one of the parts. Yeah.
You know, I'm not really, you know, for anybody that's had something like that, I'm not really intimidated by that. You know, I feel like I could probably hold my own.
Yep.
So I feel like if you believe in yourself, you're strong enough, you know, to do it. If you're not dealing, I've never gone head to head with a demon or anything like that before, so I don't know. There's still that unknown factor or whatever. But I'm also pretty sure that the majority of things that are demonic in the world are not really. So I figure if I can hold my own against that kind of stuff, I'd probably be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, of all the investigations I've been on and done over the decades now, there was only the one that, you know, was coined or deemed demonic. And, you know, it was Carl Johnson that said, yeah, this one was a demon. You know, it's just been that one. So they're few and far between. And no, I couldn't tell you how many paranormal investigations I've done. I don't count them. So I'm sorry. It's kind of a little pet peeve with me. It's like I have some friends that do it, and not really cutting on them individually or anything like that. But when you start telling me I've done 400, I've done 600, and they actually say like a specific number, 432. I'm sorry, I haven't counted. I'm not going to either. I don't understand what the point of that is. It's like, I've been doing this for X amount of years. I've done a shit ton of investigations. Don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I keep track of it in years.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this? Ask me how many investigations, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not in a race to rack up numbers of investigations. It's not about quantity.
It's about quality.
It's about the quality. Exactly. So, Tammy Heitzman, Mike, question for you. Do you ever use websites to research locations? If so, what do you use? Yeah, so, I mean, the web is quick access to a lot of great information. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, you looked up stuff on, the internet. It's like, well, I mean, there's actually a lot of information out there right now. You can go to, like first and foremost, when you're doing like the historic research on a location, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to hit the county. You could go to the county assessor's office, but a lot of county assessors have the information right there online, so you can sit in the comfort of your own home, go to their website, and you look up the tax information. A lot of those sites will have the previous owners. Some of them are really good and will list all the owners for you, which is great. And then all of a sudden you have a list of names to start working with. It might have like some old photos of the home. It a lot of times will have the will give you the square footage. It'll give you the date that it was built. The date that it was built is always important. It might have the the blueprints there of the house. So there might be aspects of it that you just maybe doing a quick walkthrough didn't know beforehand, and then maybe you find out what was behind that one door. Like, oh, there's actually another room and a hallway back there. Just, things like that. So there's a lot of great information you can find out just from doing a web search like that. A lot of historic maps are online. Find a Grave is has a lot of useful information. So we actually have a video on the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel about doing research. And I actually even have an entire presentation on it. So yeah, there's a lot of great websites that you can go to. Now, eventually, you might want to get down to a library, or we've been to the county's clerk's office and things like that, because there's some things that just aren't online. So to do like a deeper dive, but you can certainly get quite a bit of information, some initial stuff for sure, by doing some searches online. I mean, there's even like old historic books that are online, that you can actually, the whole text is there. And so you can get into those.
Newspaper.com is
Newspaper.com, there you go, newspaper archives. Yeah, the fact that you can get those massive newspaper archives now is great, because now you don't have to go down to the library to look them up. They're right there. So, yep. Okay, Tim Schoen, did you shoot anything while at Rolling Hills? Yes, so that'll be coming out. Rolling Hills itself is going to be more of like a walkthrough video than an investigation. There was a little investigative stuff in there, but it was during, I don't want to minimize anything for during the day, but it was during the day. It was extremely windy. It was kind of like in between two of the more major investigations, like the Hinsdale House and then Wildwood. It was like between those. So it was just kind of like a very different feel. So it's more of like doing a walkthrough with that group and everything. So, but it's a very cool location. So Kathy Silly Into, have you two ever come across anything ET related during your investigations? Dun, dun, dun.
I haven't.
I mean, you've had a couple of ET experiences, but
No.
not investigating.
Right. Yeah. Not investigating. Not with you there.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out there. I mean, yeah, I've had one like UFO experience. That happened while I was driving. As far as an ET encounter, and this could also be true for you too, there's always that possibility, because you never know. Some of these shadow people or shimmers or wisps or whatever that we see running around, they may always be an alien. You never know.
over there where you were seeing some stuff moving around over there.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah, for
It could have been.
very, very briefly, about midway up on the other side of our heater there was a bar of light, about like this.
Okay.
And it was just like, that's why I've been kind of just looking over there for a minute, because I was like, well, keep doing it, Yeah,
it doesn't have to show up as like a little green, or a gray or anything like that. There are different ways if some of these aliens, it could be, a being from another planet who has learned how to astral project into our dimension on this planet. You got to think, these other worlds out there many of them have billions of years of a jump start on us. So they may be able to travel this universe much differently than we. And so something that we see whoosh by. That's what I was looking for. Whoosh by. It's late. I've done a lot of talking tonight. Whoosh by. Could be, maybe it's interdimensional. Maybe it's extraterrestrial. Maybe it's a large bug. I don't know. A bat? I don't know. But it could be. It could be. We don't know. Yeah, Tim Schoen. I'm not saying it was aliens. It was aliens.
It's too cold for bugs.
Today.
To this week.
Today.
This month.
Yeah.
But before, you never know. You never know.
Okay. Mr. Como 2, I plan on taking my psychic abilities to the other side. Do you suspect that once we pass that our psychic abilities will become stronger? Well, I mean, we're going to be pure energy then, so I would imagine so, that everything would be stronger once we're over there.
Yeah, I think I call it leveling up.
Yeah.
I think you probably level up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's all you have left. Your physical body is gone, so all that's left is basically your soul. You're pure spirit now. So everything that happens to you at that point is going to be supernatural. It's going to be psychic. It's going to be on the astral plane or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be in that other dimension, the afterlife, the whatever. Yeah. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up. We've gone well over our hour. And so, again, just want to throw out there, if you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the Edge of the Rabbit Hole YouTube channel. The link is down there in the description. That is where we are going to be broadcasting from in a few weeks here. January 7th is our first episode on that channel. So that's where you have to tune in at. We will keep reminding people. We'll keep posting links. We will do everything we can to make sure you guys can find us starting in 2020. But that's where you got to go. You got to subscribe there. You got to hit the bell icon there. I know we're redoing it all, but hopefully it won't take us too long to just get back to where we were here. I would love to keep it all on the same channel. I really would. I really, really would. But because of the way YouTube works, and I've been fighting it for a while, and it just doesn't want to play nice, to make both things grow, we need to separate it, because they've been fighting with each other and holding each other back. If they were each on their own channels, the shorter stuff and then the long live stuff like this, if they were each on their own channels, they both would have gone to where they should be. People that are like far ahead of us that have been doing this for, it's crazy because they've been doing it for a shorter time. They've blown far past us, and they're looking at our stuff like, you guys have better quality stuff than I do. Mm-hmm. I'm up here. Why the hell are you guys not up here? And it's like, look at what we have going on here. It's like we got two different formats, and YouTube can't figure out what the hell it is. So,
if you follow us on Facebook, whenever it comes to show nights and stuff like that, you'll see that it's, if you read the information in the events that we post, which doesn't always happen.
be sure to read the details, because sometimes there might have to be a time change, like Edge of the Rabbit Hole tonight had to be a little bit earlier, or we might end up like for tonight, we ended up going live here on Hunter Road Media for Beyond the Shadows instead of Facebook because of the fact that we knew that there were going to be people showing up, for the regular Edge of the Rabbit Hole show time, not seeing the notification about the earlier time. And so we wanted to make sure they had a show here in place. So, I know. So,
Pay attention. That's all we're saying. Read the stuff.
So just make sure you read the details, because every once in a while, even though we're usually really consistent, every once in a while we have to change something up for some reason. It happens. So, yes, and I see everybody have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of that stuff. We have one more video that we will post to this channel before the end of the year. That will come out on Friday, and then that's it until the new year. So be on the lookout for that this Friday. And we'll go ahead and get to the shout-outs. Thank you for a wonderful 2019, for a wonderful decade. Yeah, they're all this ring.
Yeah, I know. I haven't even been watching. I've been actually talking this time.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I know. And it was about something that I like to talk about.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So there you go. All right, let's get to the shout outs here. So we have